Today, I've waded into the murky waters of the Saints subreddit to see how Saints fans are reacting to the news of Derek Carr's restructuring his contract. So we covered this in a video, but I want to hear what the Saints fans are saying and kind of react along the way to the subreddit and some of the comments. So if you are on the subreddit quite a bit, you never know when the face of the franchise might pop in there and see what's going on. Okay, so we all know the situation. Carr, his contract was restructured. This was always going to be the option outside of a trade. This was the only way to do it. Once it was kind of put out there or understood that releasing him wasn't an option because of when you realize the savings and the Saints having to be cap compliant on March 12th and the savings from the release being after March 12th, the release wasn't an option, okay? So that means there's two options left: restructure or trade. Carr has a no trade clause. Like, that wasn't going to happen either, barring some miracle last second thing like the Seahawks with Clint Kubiak or Carr going back to the West Coast, whatever. 99%, that might be a little high, 90% this was going to be a restructure. So this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody to hear that this is happening. The Saints end up saving $30 million, which is what they would have saved in a release, but they get it now, okay? So basically what happens is they take Carr's salary, they drop that down to about $1 million or $2 million, whatever the minimum is. They turn the rest, including the roster bonus, into a signing bonus. They take that signing bonus and bust it out over the next couple of years. That's how it all works. Okay, that's how the savings are realized. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. Clears about $30 million per Nick Underhill and in the face of the franchise. It was expected. It'd be very hard to field a team this year if the cap weren't pushed back. Yeah, true. The Saints would not have been able to be cap compliant if this didn't happen. They would be able to, but it would have taken some real jumping through hoops. So this, I mean, like I said, this had to happen. Carr will have a cap hit of $69 million in 26. We'll do this again next year. So the $69 million in 2026, all that tells you is that the Saints will revisit Carr's contract going into the offseason, which is similar to Russell Wilson's situation in Denver, Sean Payton's first offseason, right? Kellen Moore's first season is kind of mimicking Payton's first year in Denver with Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, where, Russell Wilson was a situation that happened before Sean Payton. Payton gets there, nothing he can really do. They're kind of deadlocked in the contract. Kellen Moore gets to New Orleans, deadlocked in the contract. First chance they get, they work out where they take a big cap hit. Wilson's was like $84 million. Carr's will be whatever the $60 million number it is. But I would assume that when they do revisit that $69 million hit after this season, it'll be to move on, unless Derek Carr is really good this year. Like, there is a chance that Kellen Moore works out and the Saints work out and we see more of what we saw in the first two games last year and no one gets injured and it's a Disney Channel original movie. There's always a chance that happens. So, but barring that, I fully believe they will move on from Derek Carr. Look, man, at least we're not paying Geno Smith $45 million like he wants. Derek was the best available option when we signed him. He's a mid-quarterback making mid-quarterback money. This is pretty spot on, Michael. 4242424242. This is pretty spot on. Like, Carr's contract is still reasonable. Like, it's still, and that's kind of the trick to this, is that you keep paying him and you keep moving the money around so that you're always kind of getting the best of the contract versus that's why you front load or back load a contract to control that payment. Derek is still, I don't want to say underpaid, but he is still certainly market value. Like, he is not getting, the Saints are not paying him like a king's ransom. They're not giving him $60 million a year or something like that. Like, they're paying him about what he would get and about what his results are worth. His results, like Michael said, he's a mid-quarterback making mid-quarterback money. That's it. Could be a lot worse. Could be the Jaguars paying Trevor Lawrence $300 million. Okay. Expect mid results. Like, yeah, this part right here. So the expect mid results thing, or like this is not an investment in Derek Carr. Like we are not signing Derek Carr. We have already signed him. It's already happened. So that was done by Dennis Allen. That was done by Pete Carmichael. That was done years ago. It had nothing to do with Kellen Moore. He is on the roster. Like he is the starting quarterback. He is already getting paid. So this isn't an investment in him as the future quarterback. This isn't saying we believe in Derek Carr. This isn't saying we think Derek Carr can win us a Super Bowl, or we think Derek Carr is an extra Breeze, or we think Derek Carr can elevate this offense. All this is saying is we are trying to financially be responsible and move this money around to where we can be cap compliant and to where we can offload him when it's, when it behooves us. That's all this is saying. So like expect mid results. Like no one is arguing that. No one, even Mickey Loomis in the front office, isn't going to sit here and tell you like we believe Derek Carr is the best quarterback in the NFL, or we believe, like this is just what we have right now. This is the hand that we're dealt. And now, if you want to say a couple of years ago it was a mistake to even sign him, if you want to say that, totally different conversation, completely different. But for right now, this is kind of just what you have to work with. Let's see. Well, hopefully Mahomes, Allen, and Jackson become available soon. Oh, that's right. Teams lock those guys up. What do all those guys have in common? They were all first-round picks by those teams, something that Saints haven't done since Archie. Couple of notes there, which is interesting. None of these guys was a top pick. Like we always hear about, like Tank, first overall pick, top 5 quarterback. None of these guys were. Lamar Jackson was the second pick of his own team. The team that drafted him passed on him. People forget about that. People give the Baltimore Ravens a lot of credit for drafting Lamar Jackson. They should get credit, but people forget that they passed on him. They were concerned. Was it Hayden Hurst? I believe it was Hayden Hurst, but they didn't want to miss on Hayden Hurst, so they passed on Lamar Jackson, which is wild. Geno is better than Carr. I would have them in the same tier. Whether one is 12 and one is 15, or one is 14 and one is 19, or one is 16 and one, I'd have them in the same tier. Let's see here. Carr's our best option in 2025. True. Yes. More like our only option. This is kind of true. Both only and best can be true of this option. Yeah. True. Let's see here. So more years of see like this right here, like so more years of mediocrity. Can't wait. This is weird because if Derek Carr is not the starting quarterback, you are getting mediocrity at best, right? Like if you're going into the season with Spencer Rattler or Jackson Dart or Kyle McCord or Shedeur Sanders or Justin Fields, like do you think that's going to be mediocre or worse, right? So I think that's weird too when people throw that out there. Like if there was a better option, we would go down that road. We are preparing for the better option. We are preparing for, like, this is the same thing. I'll probably say this a lot in this video. This is the same thing as in Peyton's first year, as Broncos fans saying, great, now we've got more mediocre years of Russell Wilson. When in reality, they're a year away from Bo Nix. They're a year away from a completely different team. They're a year away from making the playoffs, right? But the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson. Then they extended Russell Wilson, okay? Like, they didn't restructure Russell. They extended him. Traded for him, extended him. Gave him a ton of money. I think it was a 5-year extension. Okay, something the Saints did not do with Derek Carr. But just remember, you never know. You can't look at it just on the surface because you never know. I mean, I know. But you never know when the winds of change happen, just like the Broncos. It would have been easy to look at that extension. It would have been easy to look at Russell, Peyton deciding to go with Russell or them accepting Russell Wilson and thinking that was it. But 1 year later, look how different things were, okay? We were never not going to keep him. The only way we were not going to keep him is if a trade worked out. Let's see here. Can we just end this already? This is the year. This is the year. Derek Carr's blah, blah, blah. More Geno Smith stuff. He's getting cut next year. He sealed his fate. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get cut, but see, like, it will be the same situation next year. I'd say he is here for 2 more years at least. See, that can't happen, right? Like, they would have to extend him if that's the case, which they're not going to do. So, Carr is around 20 to 25. Carr is around 20 to 25 out of 32 starters, and I would assume that is around where he is paid. We have a lot bigger problems in other parts of the roster. Definitely not a long-term solution. So draft quarterback per year, and hopefully you eventually hit the jackpot. Sort of, kind of. Like, he's not the worst. He's not the best. He's around where he's paid. You're getting market value. You do have other problems, so fill those holes. And then you either luck into a Drew Brees in free agency, or you luck into drafting Joe Burrow. And drafting Joe Burrow for Cincinnati just gets you 9-8 seasons and a headache of a situation roster-wise. Just ask Trey Hendrickson. Cool, so we're going to suck for the next decade. We've been dog shit for several years now, but confirm we're going to be useless for the foreseeable. Loomis needs to be shot into the sun. Don't get it. I mean, this is just doomer. This is just doomer city. Don't get it at all. Why would this mean that? Again, you never know how fast things can change, especially right now. Like, we're on the downswing of this whole thing. We're on the downswing of the aging players. We're on the downswing of the salary cap. We're in the downswing of the bad contracts. In the next couple of years, all of those contracts will be off the books. All of the aging players will be off the roster. We'll be one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. We already have the youngest coaching staff in NFL history. We'll have the youngest roster in the NFL, and we will have one of the most monies to spend in the salary cap in the NFL within the next couple of years. So the next decade is a bit, just relax, go take it easy. We can cut him after the season. Only problem is the cap hit. He is getting all of his guaranteed money now, so I think if he plays well, he stays. If he don't, he is gone. Plus, we technically should have a decent cap situation. True. If he plays well, he stays, but that's like one of those things where it's like a bridge you'll face when he gets there, because it's like if he plays well, you would want him to stay, right? Like, if I told you Derek Carr is going to have a renaissance season, he throws for 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and the Saints win 11 games, you would say, that's awesome. Let's why mess anything up, right? Like, so it's a paradox where if he does play well and stay, right now it sounds bad, but you got to factor in if he's playing well what that looks like, right? But crazier thing is I still wouldn't be surprised if the Saints drafted a quarterback at 9. The Carr thing, I don't think changes much as far as their strategy. If anything, it now makes Shedeur Sanders, because Cam Ward's not going to drop, but Shedeur could. But it now makes Shedeur a possibility, because you now have that security blanket where you can draft Shedeur Sanders and let him sit behind Carr, and if you have a high enough grade on him. So it gives you a little more flexibility quarterback-wise early in the draft. I think regardless of Carr, I think if you liked Kyle McCord or Riley Leonard or Jalen Milroe or whoever, I think you can still take Jackson Dart. I think you can still take them late. Well, Jackson Dart's probably like a second, third rounder now, but maybe even higher by the time this goes out. But I think you can still take a young quarterback, because you have to replace Jake Haener. Jake Haener is done. All right, Spencer Rattler still has some time to develop and show some things. He's not totally out of it yet, but Jake Haener is. So you do need that third quarterback. So, I mean, I don't have a problem spending a late pick on a quarterback. Let's see here. I can't stand Derek Carr, but I get it. This is how things had to work out. I'm just going to hope he's gone after next season. I think this is generally the feeling from most Saints fans is, like I was listening to the Trizler, Trizzy Trace's Twitter space or whatever. I just wanted to hear what some of the Saints fans are saying on there. And I was sitting front row in the Twitter space, and the Trizler never even gave me a shout out. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe my ears. I mean, I'm not happy about it. Okay. And this was pretty much what they were saying in the space. They were all kind of saying, like, look, I don't like the guy. I'm not, he's not really He's okay. I'm not a fan of him, just like as a personality. But this is how it had to be, so it is what it is, and we'll just kind of move on from there. And that's the general consensus. Derek Carr is the most polarizing player, I think, maybe in NFL history, for a million different reasons. He also is maybe unfairly attached to Dennis Allen. So obviously Saints fans do not like Dennis Allen. Carr is also unfairly attached to Carmichael, who was attached to Allen. Like, it's just a perfect storm of polarizing. It's a perfect storm of bad. Some of it is unfair for sure, but it just is what it is. You know, like, it's not a popularity contest. It's not a class favorite contest. I don't think Derek Carr loses sleep over it. I certainly hope not. But this is the general consensus, I would say, from Saints fans. Let's see. He'll be gone, but more have more dead money that counts against the cap after he leaves because we had to restructure his deal to get under the cap for 2025. I mean, that was poetry. Is this William Faulkner's burner account? But yeah, it's more dead money, but we also have more money. Like, that's another part of the trick, is that it's okay if you have more of that dead money or you have more to pay in the future, because one, theoretically, a dollar is less valuable in the future because you have more of them, because the salary cap continues to go up. Okay, so if you're going to pay, I use this analogy all the time, but if you have $10 in your bank account and you have a $5 bill, but next year you'll have $20 in your bank account and a $5 bill, when would you rather pay it? You would much rather pay it when you have $20 in your account versus when you have $10 in your account, right? It's the same thing with the NFL. If you have more money in the future, you would much rather pay your bills in the future. All right, so that's a benefit to having to pay it in the future. Another benefit is that not only will the salary cap be bigger, but other contracts will come off the books. So we'll have more salary cap money in general, not just the total amount, but we'll have more salary cap relief in 2026. We're already like, whatever it is, $50 million under the cap. 2027, $200 million under the cap. So we'll have more money to play with to where we eventually can pay off all that stuff. So let's see here. All right, fine, but 2025 better be his last year. Nola's contract is awful and really limits what he can do cap-wise. Underhill said the Saints approached him for a possible pay cut. I guess he turned that down. Yeah, I mean, like, no, why would you ever take a pay cut? You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to ever take a pay cut. That never happens unless you're like Tom Brady, who's made $500 million and you're trying to chase a ring. So, yeah, I mean, the pay cut thing never happens. But The Last Dance, yep, he had hoped he would take a pay cut, and he's not doing that. Let's see here. Kick the can gets a negative connotation. It's very nuanced, but I think like this to me is like hospital ball. Like, hospital ball is something that people just say. Kick the can is something people just say, but kicking the can is sometimes the smarter thing to do. Just ask the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't take all the medicine at once. Cam Jordan's getting paid $20 million. We've got $50 million in dead cap from guys who aren't on the team. Caps, yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, this is very true. You know what I mean? Like, we've already explained this. Like, this, you cannot do it all at once. You could not cut Derek Carr. It was not an option. You had to either trade him or restructure, and they restructured. Like, so there was no option that wasn't quote unquote kicking the can. This is another thing. Blow it up and be 3-14 for a couple of years. So this is something else that was said a lot in the Trizzler's Twitter space was, I'm okay with going 3-14 for a year and then things getting better, or I'm okay, like that mindset. That never happens. Like, that is, when you think about how many teams have been really bad, like 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, they're really bad, they make a draft pick and it changes everything. That is very, that is like maybe even less than 1%. It's probably like 0.5% or something like that. Usually what happens is bad teams stay bad for a long time. And once you get really bad, it's really hard to get out of that, barring a generational player who completely changes the franchise. But there is a reason why bad teams are consistently bad and good teams are consistently good. And it has nothing to do with top 5 draft picks or top 10 draft picks. All right. People hate on the Saints for drafting one quarterback in the first round in their entire existence. If you go look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've drafted a quarterback in the top 10 once, and it was Terry Bradshaw. Okay, so it's just not a correlation. It's not a correlation. So the idea like, well, we'll just tank, be bad, and then the next year we're good. Like, brother, you tank, you get into you burn more years of rookie contracts, you burn more years of your best players, you get deeper into, and you're just bad for another 10, 15 years. Like, I always use the Jaguars because the Jaguars had a ridiculous amount of top 10 picks and top 5 picks and first overall picks and didn't do anything with it. I think it was something like 10 out of 16 years they drafted in the top 10. 8 out of, it was like 55% of their picks over like 2 decades was in the top 5. They had back-to-back first overall picks, and they were 100 games under 500. If you go from 2008 to now, go look at the draft picks. It's absolutely insane. They went, like, if you look at their draft picks, it's like 8th pick, 6th pick, 5th, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 1st. Like, it's crazy to look at. And boom, 100 games under 500. So the idea of like, yeah, just be bad for 1 year, that can spiral very quickly into, oh my God, we've been bad for 20 years. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That's what the Reddit is saying as of right now. This is like immediately after the news. So get on down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. I always enjoy this, always checking out the Reddit. I also really appreciate everybody, when I go in here and I look at what's going on in the Saints subreddit, sometimes there's a topic or a conversation about, me or YouTubers or podcasts or whatever. And I really appreciate whenever, y'all either mention, throw me out there or say we're doing a good job or whatever. Much appreciated. So just know I see that. I always try and reply and like thank people for saying that. It's very kind, and I really do appreciate it a lot. So, that's just me waxing poetic, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.